Hello everyone, this is Fabrizio from ProHealthyx, and today we will look into the physiological reasons why we get muscle soreness after an intense workout and what is that we can do in order to reduce the extent of this muscle soreness, meaning how can we help our muscles to recover faster. Now, before we go into muscle soreness, we need to understand that every time we exercise and we do a physical activity, we apply a certain level of stress on our muscles. Now, in response to this stress, our body basically induces a process of inflammation. The inflammation stimulates recovery, and recovery also stimulates remodeling of our muscle fibers. So, in a nutshell, the moment we do exercise, we induce stress and muscle damage that needs to be repaired. Now, no matter whether you are a trained person or maybe you are somebody who just started in the gym, or maybe you're a trained person that is changing the fitness routine, we all can experience muscle soreness. Now, there are two different types of muscle soreness that we can experience. Now, one is called acute muscle soreness. It typically happens right after our training, our workout, and it lasts within, let's say, an hour or two, and maximum 2 hours, and it will just disappear. Now, the physiological reasons of why we get this acute muscle soreness, it is thought to be caused by accumulation of metabolic byproducts caused by, let's say, the muscle contraction. To mention few, maybe we have the fact that the acidity in our muscle fibers increases because accumulation of hydrogen ions, or we form lactates that, although can be reconverted into energy to continue a muscle contraction, the moment that we do intense physical exercise such as weight training, where it's more an anaerobic type of exercising, lactate can accumulate in our muscle fibers, causing fatigue. But you do understand that the moment you stop exercising, you stop the formation of these byproducts, and therefore via normal blood circulation, our muscle fibers are cleaned out by these byproducts. This is a reason why this acute muscle soreness disappears within 1 or 2 hours from the exercise. Now, the other muscle soreness that we can experience is called delayed onset muscle soreness. Typically happens anything between 24 and 48 hours from our workout session. And how do we know that is there? Yeah, obviously because we have muscle pain, and the level of pain depends on the intensity of the exercises that you did, and or the level of experience that you have in training, at the level of exercises that your muscles are used to undertake. But nevertheless, we have muscle pain, and we typically also have muscle stiffness. Now, the physiological reasons why we get this delayed onset muscle soreness are not fully understood. So there are but there are three theories that are very well accepted within the sport community. And I would like to discuss with you these three main reasons to let you understand why we potentially get this delayed onset muscle soreness. Now, before I illustrate the three possible theories that could explain the occurrence of the delayed onset muscle soreness, I would like just to remind that we have three different types of contractions when it comes to exercising. We have the concentric, we have the eccentric, and we have the isometric contraction. Although it is out of scope for this video to really dig into the different type of contraction, I think it's important to set the ground and have everybody aligned on that. So concentric contraction is a contraction that causes the shortening of muscle fibers. Eccentric is when you have the lengthening of the muscle fibers, and isometric is when you have a stress on your muscles and the length does not change. So if I take an example of the bicep curl, so when I go up, basically this is my concentric contraction because I'm inducing a tension on my muscle and I'm shortening the muscle fibers. This is the concentric. When I go down, my muscle fibers are actually going back into length. So we are extending the muscle fibers, and I apply a stress to the muscle to resist the force of gravity. And this is the eccentric contraction. The isometric is, for instance, when I stay here, I apply a contraction to my muscle. Now I'm contracting my biceps, but I'm not extending or shortening my muscle fibers. It is an isometric contraction. Having said that, the first theory I would like to mention is the so-called connective tissue damage. Now, there was a nice study in 1996, although other studies have also confirmed this data, where they demonstrated that the level of what is called hydroxyproline, which is a degradation product of collagen, was higher in those individuals that experienced delayed onset muscle soreness versus those who did not experience any muscle soreness, or at least not at the same extent of the first group. Now, we also know that collagen is very abundant in the connective tissues of muscles, and also in the tendon attachments. So it was hypothesized that because we have this increase in hydroxyproline caused by an extensive degradation of collagen, then the cause of this delayed onset muscle pain was indeed caused by damage of the connective tissues themselves. Now, there was also another part of the study within the same investigation when they showed that those individuals who had a very high intense eccentric contraction tend to experience a higher level of delayed onset muscle soreness compared to those who had a lower intensity eccentric contraction, or maybe focusing only on the concentric contraction. So this also demonstrates the power of eccentric contraction when it comes to induce stress in your muscle fibers. And it's actually very well known now that eccentric contraction is the way to go if you're really focused on hypertrophy. But I might go into a different video into more details on this topic. Now, the second theory that could eventually explain the muscle soreness is the so-called skeletal muscle damage. And this is also coming out of a very interesting study done by Clarkson and other researchers in 1986, where they basically compare the occurrence of muscle pain when focused on concentric, eccentric, or isometric contraction. And again, the outcome of this study was that those individuals who had very high intensity in the eccentric contraction were the one experiencing the highest level of muscle soreness after 24-48 hours from the workout. And again, in this case, it was hypothesized that eccentric contraction was causing more muscle damage because of the higher intensity of stress, and that in turn is a good thing because we want to have muscle damage inducing the inflammation, then repair, and then the remodeling. So, and again, the study basically says that eccentric contraction is the contraction that causes more damage at the skeletal muscle level, and this also was linked to the fact that there was the level of an enzyme called creatine kinase was higher in those who really focused on the eccentric contraction, and this creatine kinase is a symptom, or we know that is caused by my muscle damage really at the cellular level. So this is the reason why they say that we do have this skeletal muscle damage caused by eccentric contraction that in turn will give you muscle soreness. Now the last hypothesis is called spasm hypothesis. Now this is coming out of a study from the year 2000, where it was proven that delay onset muscle soreness was mainly caused by ischemia. Now, ischemia is a condition that happens when you do not have sufficient blood flow to a certain body part. For instance, when you are you are sleeping in a wrong position, you might wake up at night because maybe your hand is getting very cold and soreness, because most likely you were sleeping on a position that you block some blood vessels, and so you have insufficient blood to this body part, to the hand, and then you get soreness. This is called ischemia, and this is the reason why they say that maybe during the training, since there is expansion of the muscle fibers, some blood vessels might get contracted because of the expansion of the fiber, and limiting therefore the blood supply to specific part of your muscles during exercise, that in turn will cause delay onset muscle soreness. Now, what can we do in order to reduce the occurrence and the extent of the delay onset muscle soreness? Now, there are a lot of people that really rely on low intensity stretching to reduce the post-exercise muscle soreness. Now, although stretching might not eliminate the occurrence of delay onset muscle soreness, definitely stretching will relax your muscles and will restore a lot of blood flow that goes through your muscle fibers, helping somewhat to reduce the level of pain or stiffness or soreness that you might experience after a workout. Now, there are different types of stretching that you can use, but the stretching that is highly advised when it comes to recovery is static stretching. Now, there are two different types of static stretching that we could use. So we have the so-called static active stretching, and we have the passive static stretching. Now, the static active stretching is the one that you do yourself. For instance, when you go from a certain position towards a stretched position of a certain part of your body, and you get there gradually. So, for instance, if I want to stretch my bicep, what I can do in order to do my static active stretching, I will stretch slowly my bicep to a point where I do feel the stretching taking place. So this is a moment where I do have my active static stretching. So I'm doing this myself to stretch a certain muscle part. The passive static stretching is when somebody is doing that for you. So you relax your muscle completely, and somebody is going to help you to stretch the specific body part. Now, stretching exercises are, again, an excellent tool, especially static stretching exercises are an excellent tool that you can do on a daily basis, or maybe you can do a little bit more let's say the post-workout day, when you have the so-called maybe active recovery phase. Now, the most effective method, again, involves the static stretching, and make sure that you understand what kind of stretching to do so that you don't cause even more damage, because intense stretching is also very taxing on your muscles and can cause even more damage, that at the end will even amplify the muscle soreness caused by your training session. And again, when it comes to static stretching, if you do active or if you do passive static stretching, make sure that you go to the stretch position and you hold it for 10, 15 or even sometimes 30 seconds, then you relax, give a few seconds to rest, and then you go back on. Now, keep in mind that static stretching is very good when it comes to recovery, but it has been demonstrated in many different studies that static stretching is not a good strategy when it comes to warm up, because static stretching for certain activities, such as, let me mention you, such as let's say sprinting, such as strength training, such as jumping, such as low speed strength test, Actually, static stretching can decrease temporarily your physical performance. So again, be mindful when you do static stretching before you do your workout, and maybe before you do your workout, it's better to do for more dynamic stretching. So this is it for today. I hope you have learned something new about muscle soreness, why we get it, what can we do in order to reduce the extent of muscle soreness. And by the way, I just mentioned static stretching, but a lot of people nowadays also use these foam rolls where you can roll on top and really re-establish blood circulation in your muscle fibers and relax your muscles. It's also a perfectly fine tool if you find it comfortable, because not everybody is comfortable with foam rolls. Okay, so having said that, if you like this video, please thumb up. If you have not registered to the channel, please do so. You help me a lot in growing my channel in YouTube. And if you have any questions, please comment below and I will be very happy to reply and help you. Thank you so much, and until next video, stay healthy.